Here. Okay, I'll try not to blow you out of the back of the room here. Is this level okay? Okay. Well, good evening. It's great to see you all here this evening, and thank you for coming out on a beautiful Ohio evening. It's been a pleasure spending a couple of days out here. I was at the Finley Ham Fest yesterday and drove over and was down visiting some friends down in Apple Creek earlier today just to say hello, and got a nice tour of DX Engineering earlier and summit racing. Hard to see one without the other. Rick, let's just hit the next slide here. Okay, you've already heard a bunch of this. I will add that Tim Duffy and I have known each other for a long time. Tim is considerably younger than I am, and I will underscore that by saying that we met when I was the station manager at the National Scout Jamboree East, which was held in western Pennsylvania, Marine State Park. And I was the station manager, and Tim was, what, 13 at the time as a visiting ham. We trace all the way back, he's for some reason he is now louder than I am on the band, so I'm not quite sure how that happened, but there you go. Okay, this just really quick. You heard a lot of this earlier. I majored in amateur radio at Michigan State University. I chose to go to Michigan State because they were the only school that actually invited me out to see their K1ZZ line at the club station. I did serve as a volunteer in the league for a number of years, joined the full-time staff in 1972 because ARRL was willing to pay me as much as Travelers Insurance Company was willing to pay me for working in downtown Hartford, where I felt like a lemming every morning pouring into town with all the other insurance workers and pouring out of town. And I thought, well, yeah, that's not a bad gig, working at headquarters. I've been there for a couple of summers doing work, and I just stuck with it. ARRL put me through graduate school at University of Connecticut, and I've shared a station with my wife Linda, K1ZZ, for 35 years. The last 30 of those in Coventry, Connecticut, where we have about 15 acres and room to put up a few more antennas. Our daughter Darren is an attorney. There's a little story there. She went to the University of Southern California because she wanted to major in music industry. She got there and discovered that people in the music industry weren't very nice people, by and large. So she decided to become a lawyer instead. In Washington. So let's go to the next thing here. What I'd like to talk to you about this evening, and I begin by saying that I've wanted to come to PCARS for a number of years. Tom finally pointed out that I was running out of options to do that since I'm planning to retire in May. And the reason that I wanted to is that this club has a reputation as a live wire club. I first encountered a couple of guys, and I'm sorry I don't remember who they were, and maybe you're here in the room tonight, who I ran into in Florida a number of years ago. And one of them had a PCARS shirt on, and where's that? Oh, it's in northeastern Ohio. So I asked him about the club, and he said, I live 40 miles away, and I go to that club because they do things. I go past a couple of other clubs on my way up to PCARS, and I go to that club because they do stuff. And I've known Tom now for a number of years, so we asked him to come out and speak at the ARRL National Convention last year ago, July, to share what it takes to make a successful local radio club. So I wanted to come out here and see it for myself. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the current state of amateur radio and where things are heading, the challenges we face, the opportunities we have, and I hope to get a little time at the end for some questions and some feedback, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on the direction of amateur radio. A great deal of what I've heard talking to the club officers tells me that you're very much on a similar track to what we're trying to do with ARRL. In this country, ever since the code requirement was dropped, we have had steady, slow but steady growth in amateur radio. In 2014, we had the most number of new hands that we've had in a long time. More than 33,000 licensees, and more than 10,000 upgrades that year. This year, the upgrades are even stronger, so we're seeing that as a very encouraging trend. So we are, as Tom mentioned before, up to about 730,000 licensees. Worldwide, that is not the direction things are going. Worldwide, in Japan, for example, they peaked at almost 1.4 million licensed stations back 20 years ago, and they've been on a steady decline ever since. They're now down to 436,000 from a peak of 1.4 million. The International Amateur Radio Union stopped publishing numbers of licensees a while ago because the trend was not a direction we wanted to advertise to the telecommunications administrations of the world. In Europe, the licensing numbers are trending downward, even though you would think, listening to the HF bands and from the VHF activity there as well, that must be going up. But they just have apparently a higher percentage of activity. But the licensing figures are going in the wrong direction. There are some bright spots. China is a very bright spot. There's well over 10,000 licensed amateurs in mainland China. Thailand has, believe it or not, several 100,000 licensees, almost all of them are on VHF. Indonesia has some tens of thousands. I will be in Indonesia next month for the ARRL Region 3 conference, and we'll be interested in talking to folks there about the direction they see things going. So here in this country, about half of the licensed amateurs have technician licenses. About a quarter have general licenses, and the other quarter are advanced and extra. The number of novices, since that classic license is no longer available, is basically down in the noise level now. In that number, of course, we have quite a few people who have FCC licenses but don't actually live in the United States. They've been taking an exam in another country from 3 volunteer examiners, or they've been here on a short visit and have gotten licensed. A U.S. call sign in Europe and in Japan in particular is quite a status symbol, and people like to have that, and it doesn't cost very much in contrast to their own home licenses, which typically can cost upwards of $100 a year to have an amateur license. It's one of the reasons the numbers are going down. And they can have a license here, of course, for nothing, and renew it for nothing, and now get a vanity call sign for nothing, since the fee for that just disappeared. We don't know how many of the 730,000 are not active. It's probably more than half. I'm sure you know licensed hams who haven't been on the air in years. So one of the things I'm always asked when I'm overseas is, so Dave, why is it that amateur radio is still growing in the United States and it's not in other parts of the world? What can we do to follow your example? And I say, well, it's very simple. You need to have more natural disasters. Because that's the main attraction, that's the main draw into amateur radio today, is the desire to be of service, generally locally, through CERT teams. CERT teams are running a lot of license classes around the country. We in this country have a much stronger tradition of volunteerism than exists in many other countries. And so that's something that we can harness. Of course, we have a 10-year license term. It doesn't cost anything to renew, so what's the downside of having a license even if you're not active? Also, I'd like to pat your national association on the back. ARRL has more resources than most national associations, well, than any other national association. We have a staff of about 100 people that I'm responsible for to the board. The policy making is done by the board of directors, which Dale is your representative on the board. The volunteer organization is headed up by section managers in each section. The largest section in the ARRL field organization is Ohio. Scott, you have a great team, and
Yes, we do.
I know you have a lot of folks right here in the room who are part of that team. So we can do things that in many other countries the amateur organization just isn't able to do. So ARRL, we're healthy, we're growing. We have a mission that we're very comfortable with, the mission to advance the art, science, and this is a very important word, enjoyment of amateur radio. I know that's a key to PCARS. You're having fun. If you're not having fun, you wouldn't do it. And we've tried for a number of years now to remind ourselves that this is an important part of why people are radio amateurs. It's an avocation. It serves a number of useful purposes, but we have to enjoy what we're doing, or we wouldn't keep doing it. So we are in our 9th straight year of membership growth, right through the recession. We kept growing. We're up to over 167,000 dues-paying members, of whom almost 13,000 are in the Great Lakes Division, which is Ohio, Michigan, and West Virginia. I'm sorry, Ohio, Michigan, and Kentucky. Shouldn't it be? No. You would think. Yeah, there were historical reasons for West Virginia not being in the same division as the rest of the 8-call area. And if you ask somebody in Western Kentucky why they are in the Great Lakes Division, they have no idea either. The league is strong financially, largely through the support of league members and voluntary contributions above and beyond basic dues. But we've run deficits the last 2 years. We have not had a dues increase in 14.5 years. The board of directors decided back in July that it was time for a dues increase, and so on January 1st, 2016, the dues will go up by $10. And so this is a really good time to renew your membership if you would like to do that for a few years in the future. But we're looking toward having a little healthier budget in 2016. When I go back to the office on Wednesday, I show up, Wednesday morning I'm putting my wife on a plane to Ukraine because she is a election observer at a round of Ukrainian local elections coming up, and she will be over there for about seven to 10 weeks. But after I drop her at the airport, I go back and go right into budget meetings for the next 10 days or so. So we'll have a fun. Those are always fun times. Let's move on here. ARRL membership does not mirror the licensing statistics nationally. You can see, I mentioned before, ARRL, the ARRL members, let me rephrase that. If you're an amateur extra class licensee, there is a 50-50 chance you're an ARRL member. That means that even though there's only 20-something, 19% extras in the country, 44% of ARRL members hold extra class licenses, 8% hold advanced class licenses. So you can see the majority of members are in those two classes of license. That's not really healthy. This number is one that I worry about a lot. We have only 7% of technician licensees as ARRL members. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Techs tend not to be as active. They tend to be locally focused in their activities. But we need their support as much as anybody else's. It is their spectrum as well that we're trying to protect. So we're really focusing in the next couple of years on getting that number up and getting the upgrades, because the more, as a general licensee and above, you become much more engaged in the wide scope of amateur radio. And so now, because it's just a written exam that represents the barrier there, there's good opportunity for people to upgrade and be able to sample more of the what's available as a licensee. Go ahead, Herb. All right, last year we had a great year. We had a QSO party where there were 16,000 people who qualified for certificates for contacting ARRL members and volunteers and staff. And I had a fantastic time in the last week of December, just getting on the air, working anybody who would call in. We all did during the year. W1AW operated from all 50 states and all U.S. territories. We even got a special permission from the Navy to operate W1AW portable KG-4 from the Naval Base of Guantanamo Bay. Never been done before. It had always been a KG-4 to call sign. W100AW operating from the headquarters and from 6 regional conventions, including Dayton, made over 70,000 contacts during the year. We had 3,300 attendees at the National Convention. I see several people here tonight who have the badges that they got at the convention. We've done publishing. Yes, we do publish, although it's not the main activity of the organization. And of course, that was part of our centennial celebration as well. But that was fun. But it's time to move on. What are we doing for the future? So we're engaged in a round of strategic planning right now. There's a small group of board and staff working on strategic planning. And of course, part of that sort of process typically involves what's called a SWOT analysis, where you look at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats facing an organization. Pretty standard stuff. So what are our strengths? Well, as an organization, as an amateur radio service, we have a lot of history and tradition behind us. We have very strong, viable organizations at the international, national, and local level. And of course, PCARS and the other clubs represented here tonight are a good example of local clubs. As Tip O'Neill used to say, all politics is local. Well, all PR is local also. All of the outreach that is effective is done face-to-face, is done through family, friends, and people that you encounter in your own communities. We've got an ever-expanding universe of activities with an amateur radio. And I don't need to tell you all that because you have special interest groups that address a number of these. And I'm sure that if a new one pops up, you'll have a new group addressing that as well. And especially, it's nice to see that these days, geeks rule. This is particularly true among young people. It's not a bad thing to be labeled a geek anymore because people know that the geek at the desk next to you in school is likely to be your boss someday, so you better be nice to her or him. All right, but we've got some problems as well. Along with this expanding scope of amateur radio, there is a potential to break down into tribes, into warring factions, if you will. And sometimes you hear that on the air, and that's unfortunate. And sometimes it pops up, and within a club, we have to remember we're all in this together, and it's important that we all work together. If there's a band, a frequency allocation that's threatened, and you don't happen to operate on that band, maybe you think, well, okay, that's no big deal. But unless we all together, these 0.2% of the population that are radio amateurs, unless we're all willing to support one another in the defense of amateur radio allocations, it's not going to happen. We do not have the sort of diversity that we really need in terms of gender. I'm delighted to see women are an active part of PCARS. I have noticed going around looking at other clubs that the clubs that are growing are the ones that tend to have family-oriented activities. They have things that spouses can do together. They have things that the kids can get involved in. We need to look more like the rest of the population, not just gender-wise, but every-wise. Particularly when I run into hams overseas, I'm reminded that we're not all aging white males. There are a lot of aging other males around the world who are also in our population. And we need to reflect that here at home as well. The fact that the telecom world is expanding means that we are an increasingly smaller part of the total, and that's a threat. And therefore, 30 years ago, it was likely that an FCC commissioner had run into amateur radio at some point in their careers before they got to the commission. That's much less true today. We have to start educating them as soon as they come through the door. And frequently FCC staff as well. There is an FCC amateur radio club in Washington made up of staffers. And most of them are with the International Bureau. Most of them are actually attorneys. And the reason that they got into ham radio was because they came to the board of the commission and they said, well, okay, I'm a pretty smart person, I'm a pretty good attorney, but I don't know gigahertz from a kilohertz. Where do I learn about this stuff? They said, oh, you need to get a ham license. And it's a pretty good group, but we do have to do quite a bit more education of commission staff if we want them to be on our side in the future. Finally, and this is just a personal comment, and I absolve Dale of any responsibility for this observation, but I think that it is very difficult to defend the current set of privileges that don't map well to the requirements for a technician license in particular. Think about it. A technician license authorizes you to run 1,500 watts output at microwave frequencies. That's essentially, open the door of your microwave oven, connect that power to an antenna, and you're authorized to do that on the strength of a 35-question multiple choice exam. If somebody at the commission were to ask me, okay, Dave, explain to me why that's good public policy, I would have a tough time doing it. On the other hand, there's a lot of interesting stuff that goes on in ham radio that is certainly within the capabilities of technician licensing that they're currently denied access to below 6 meters down in the HF spectrum. And there is spectrum in there that we as a community don't fully effectively use, and that we could use to make ham radio more interesting to tech licensees. My prediction is this is going to be an issue in the years to come. I think sooner rather than later. Since I'm going to be retiring in May, it's probably not a particular problem I'm going to have to deal with, but we as a community will have to face up to it, I think, at some point. And that doesn't mean withdrawing privileges from any current licensee. It just means restructuring the entry level into amateur radio into something that's a little bit more rational. But I got into ham radio at the beginning of the incentive licensing period. I can assure you there is no one on the board, there's no one on the staff who wants to go through that again. So that's not going to happen. But we do need to think seriously about the entry level. Okay, we have some opportunities too. We can do what you all do right here and share our passion. We've got tools, new tools, social media tools. Tim gave me a terrific opportunity today to sit down with the Summer Racing DX Engineering PR person, and we clearly have a lot of opportunity there. The equipment we have is so much more portable. Rick said he took it out in the field this weekend, and I'm sure it weighed a lot less than the equipment would have weighed 50 years ago. We can put it in a backpack. I have put a station in a backpack, carried it on an airplane with a little fiberglass pole, extended pole, go to some other country, set it up, and make contacts all over the world with just what I carried with me. And lots of people are doing that. Lots of people are going hiking, biking with their equipment. Okay, themed events. Hey, getting out to parks. What a terrific idea. Gee, I wonder where that came from. Your state park event is certainly part of the reason why when the ARRL staff and our Public Relations Committee realized that the National Park System is celebrating its centennial next year, we thought, hey, we've had a lot of fun celebrating our centennial. How about if we help them celebrate their centennial? So we're going to have an operating event, National Parks on the Air, in 2016 that will give you a chance to get your stuff out and take it to not just the national parks. There are actually, in the national park system, there are 407 units, they're called, that cover a lot of other historic and significant locations. Some of them will be easy to activate. Some of them will be a little harder. I mentioned my daughter lives in Washington. She lives right now a block from Ford's Theater, and I'm pretty sure we're going to have a tough time getting a station on the air for Ford's Theater on 10th Street in DC. but we'll take a look at it, figure it out. But we have a lot of opportunities to use themed events to get people on the air, as you all have illustrated. We have a lot of technical advances that are giving us more capability for less money. Remote operation is providing an opportunity for people even who move into restricted areas to get back on the air. One of my favorite all-time hands is someone that some of the old-timers here will recognize, Ellen White, W1YL. Ellen was a long-time assistant communications manager at the league. She and her husband moved to Florida back in the, late 70s, I guess it was. She's now in her late 80s and just had to give up an antenna farm that she had for years and moved into a location where she just couldn't get on the air, and she figured, hey, that's it, I'm off the air. Well, a group of her friends down there, thank you very much, you read my mind. I must be sounding pretty scratchy out there. A group of her friends have set her up with access to her remote station. She was on the air on 20 meter CW last Friday and was just so thrilled to be back part of the group on the air. I'm looking forward to working her very soon after I get home. Threats. Okay, already covered a lot of this. The competition for spectrum is driven largely by money. And we and other people who can't charge customers for access to the spectrum, we all face a similar challenge. This covers the public safety agencies, the radio astronomers, and other scientific services. It even covers the DoD, the military. We end up working closely with DoD on spectrum issues because their interests are very much aligned with ours. The world tends not to see amateur radio as relevant to the 21st century. We've all got these things, and yeah, that's fine. It's great when they work. So we have to fight against that. We have to say, well, look, okay, the steam engine came along, and all of a sudden there were steamships, but you still see people sailing. It's not the end of the story just because a competing technology comes along that can do some things a little better, because there are things that just give people joy to do them themselves without $1 trillion of infrastructure to make it happen. The rest is well known to you all. I think you probably have fewer problems with antenna restrictions here in Ohio than in other parts of the country. But if you were thinking about retiring to Florida or Texas or Arizona or somewhere, you will not find new residential construction that does not have restrictive covenants of some kind. And yes, sometimes you can negotiate a reasonable antenna, but it's entirely, you have no control over that. They can simply tell you no, and that's the end of the story. We're trying to change that through the legislative process and are making some headway. Okay. So, to make it all, to give us a future, to give amateur radio a future, we need to remember that we're part of a global community. ARRL has more resources than anybody else. That means, but the United States only is one of many participants in international frequency conferences. We need the support of a lot of other countries if we're going to maintain allocations. And so we need to help our colleagues in other countries because they are helping us. They are doing things that we cannot do to protect our interests at that level. You all are doing so much of this that I really don't think I need to elaborate on any of it. It's to strengthen our associations, not just the national association, but also the local clubs, the section organization. This is, it's important to remember that we are a community and that we have to support one another. So we support, ARRL supports amateur radio through what we describe as the 5 pillars. Through public service delivered by our volunteers, through advocacy done by both volunteers and professional staff, through our education programs, through promoting technology and supporting it all. The basis of it all is membership in your local club, in your national association. So thank you very much for coming tonight and listening to me. Let's see if there's another slide. Yeah. I'm particularly interested in this one. Where should we concentrate our resources? Because that's a key question that faces the board regularly. What should we really focus on that we're not already doing? And if you have some thoughts about stuff that we're doing that we could stop doing, that's all always helpful to know as well. That's the most difficult thing any membership association ever faces is identifying things that you can actually afford to stop doing, because you can't do everything. So thank you, and I open it up for questions, comments. Yes, sir.
Okay, can you briefly go over what the current status of the legislation on the internet restrictions?
Sure. We have a bill in the House of Representatives. It's H.R. 1301. We currently have 95 co-sponsors of that legislation. It's in the House Telecom Subcommittee, which is chaired by Greg Walden, who is a congressman from Oregon, who happens to be W7EQI, which is very helpful. Congressman Walden is a very influential figure on Capitol Hill, and he's very supportive of the legislation, and we're anticipating that it will move through his committee. We would like to get more co-sponsors, because the more co-sponsors there are, the more pressure there is for this committee to do something. I'm proud to say that in the state of Connecticut, we have 80% of our congressional delegation on the House side who are co-sponsors, and I'd like to see Ohio match that if you can. We'll make it 100% after I get home. On the Senate side, we have S1685. It's identical legislation that was introduced by Senator Wicker. Did any of you happen to see any video on Senator Wicker from Mississippi? He participated in some Hurricane Katrina 10th anniversary ham radio activity a couple of weeks ago. You might have heard the K5 one-by-one call signs that were active at the time. He was actually on the air for one of those sites. He's a great supporter. The co-sponsor on the Senate side is Senator Blumenthal from Connecticut, and so we'd like to get more co-sponsors on the Senate side as well. But Senator Wicker, who is chairman of the Committee of Jurisdiction in the Senate, has indicated that he thinks the bill will move in the Senate. So we're hopeful, but as you know, nothing is guaranteed in Congress. There's a well-known definition of insanity. It's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Well, the equivalent definition is going to Congress and expecting them to solve your problem for you. So we're hopeful. And we'll see where it goes. Other questions?
I know the ARRL has a pretty strong program for educating educators with amateur radio. Do they have any sort of program available to those of us who are not professional educators that would help us approach our superintendents, our principals, etc., to try and get ourselves in amateur radio more involved in our local school systems, especially where we don't have teachers in those systems that have participated in the ARRL program?
Mm-hmm. Rick has a pretty commanding voice. Did you all hear his question? Okay. We do have some material that is specifically designed to take to superintendents and principals explaining how amateur radio can be used in the classroom and in after-school activities. There are, of course, several problems associated with that. There is, in many school systems, it's very difficult for a volunteer to get access to the school, even for after-hours program, unless there's someone in a supervisory capacity on staff who can be around. So generally speaking, it really does take a teacher to be engaged in the process. It doesn't necessarily have to be a teacher who's gone through one of our Teachers Institutes. We do train a couple of dozen teachers every year, and they come out and really do a great job when they go home. But let's face it, that's a drop in the bucket when you consider the size of the country. So that's a program that we would like to expand. We're always looking for more financial support that we can use to provide a week-long training program for teachers on teaching what we call wireless telecommunications fluency in the classroom using amateur radio. The best thing that comes out, of course, is when you get a teacher who is a licensed amateur who will stay at a school or within a particular school system and make it work over a period of time. But I was reminded of how difficult it is to get into a school today. I went back to visit my own high school radio club in Norwich, Connecticut, back in late April. And since the days when I went there, back when shortly after Columbus discovered America, it was an open campus. There was about a dozen buildings on the high school campus, and you just walk in. And today, that doesn't happen. You have to go through security. You have to be escorted wherever you go on campus if you don't belong here. So it's a tough nut to crack. There was another question back here.
Just curious, how many life members do you have out of the 160,000?
Out of the 167,000 life members, we have a little over 20,000 life members. And I know there are a number of you in the room. Some of them got a really good deal when they joined. Life membership is still available and will continue to be available at the current rates till the end of the year.
Yeah, you don't show it in the QSD.
We're not promoting it heavily. It's still available. We're delighted whenever anybody signs up for life membership. But in the current inflationary and interest rate environment, is it a good deal for the league? Well, it depends on how old you are.
Yeah.
It
was $200 for me back
then. Yeah. So for you, it was a really good deal.
Don't knock me off yet.
No, that's actually my wife's line. Sometimes she works as a volunteer at the ARRL stand in Dayton, and if a life member comes up and says, well, I joined for $180, she'll say, oh, gee, that means you're on the list.
Is that what Red Heart's for, QSD?
So, let's see, did I want to say something? Maybe I better stop while I'm ahead on that subject.
Yeah.
Something else? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. One of the things I was I live in a suburban area, so I was starting to run HF and whatever, and the noise on there is really horrendous. Is there anything the ARRL is doing to get the FCC to enforce Part 15?
Okay, what kind of noise? Just wall warts and
I couldn't identify what the devices were, but I sure saw a lot of those.
yeah, okay, yeah, it's, yeah, there are two ways of losing spectrum. One is through reallocation. The other is through attrition, through the growing level of man-made noise. I call it spectrum pollution. And back 10 or 11 years ago, I would have been here talking to you about broadband over power lines and what that threat represented to family radio. But it was not the only threat. And Ed Hare, our lab supervisor, is fond of saying, Dave, power line noise, just the routine power line noise, it causes more interference than BPL ever would, even if it did work. Well, I'll leave it at that, even if it did work. So yeah, that's something that we continue to work on. Ed is on standards committees, industry standards committees, and is continually working to improve the standards for electronic equipment. FCC enforcement is a sore subject for a number of reasons, including this one. I will say that they claim to be working with the customs and border people to prevent the entry into the country of uncertified electronic equipment. I hope that really comes to pass, because tracking them down one at a time is not a profitable enterprise. We need to prevent it from being sold in the first place. Anything else? Thank you all. It's been a great evening with you.